You're listening to Mortgage Lending Mastery. Get the knowledge you need to advance your mortgage practice quickly and efficiently from Jen Du Plessis, America's mortgage mastery mentor with over 37 years of experience and over $1 billion in lifetime fundings. Jen has been mentoring loan officers and realtors for over 15 years and speaking on stages across the globe. So settle in and get ready as Jen and her guests share their experience, passion, and strategies to help you crack the top producer code to reach new heights in your business. And now, here's your host, Jen Du Plessis, mortgage mastery mentor and head chick in charge of Kinetic Spark Consulting.
Well, hey there and welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Mortgage Lending Mastery. You know, we're heading up to our 12th anniversary of years, not months, not 12 episodes. God only knows how many episodes we've done. I have no idea. But I am so excited to have you here today. And I want to introduce you to our guest today, who is Spencer Dusebout. And I love how your name is. So those that are looking at it, and he just gave me a little trick on it, sort of like Jen Du Plessis. I always say, think of duplex and say Du Plessis. And it's super easy, but he says that Spencer says he does about how many sit-ups a day? Whatever.
Oh yeah, just 10. What the number doesn't matter. Yeah.
Right.
So.
He does about. Yeah. So Spencer is the founder and CEO of Aidium. We're going to talk about that. It's the #1 mortgage CRM software that automates the core responsibilities of clients, such as lead conversion and transaction management. And it's not even just that, it's also client retention, right? And I call them alumni clients, not past clients. I never call it a database. I always call it a community. So I'm going to be using those words, Spencer, just so that you know what that is. But he's also doing some keynoting in the mortgage industry as I am. So hopefully we'll run across each other. And, he is a serial entrepreneur starting, and I love this, starting is it a nonprofit or is it a for-profit? No, it's a nonprofit, youth-based nonprofit called Hands for Others, hands, plural, number 4, others, where they are, going all over the world and making sure that there is safe drinking water for many, many kids and people all over the world. So very near and dear to my heart, because as being part of the Royal Order, that's what we do. We make sure that we're out there and giving and volunteering, to help the underprivileged and people that need our help. So I love that. And what we're going to talk about today is your software platform, but don't hang up yet, because we're also going to talk about how it impacts what we're experiencing in today's market, that we don't have to regurgitate. We all know what it's like. We all know what's happening. So having said that, Spencer, tell us a little bit about why you decided to start mortgage specific. You're an entrepreneur that wasn't necessarily in the mortgage business. Why did you want a CRM specifically for mortgage people, not for realtors, not for any other business, but specifically for realtors? And then give us a little bit about the backstory on the name of your company.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, and thanks for having me. It's great to be here. But yeah, I guess in general, I think that they're just, the lending industry as a whole is very underserved from a technology standpoint. And I had a prior company that was doing predictive data in real estate. So it's basically predicting when people be more likely to sell their home, generating leads, selling those leads to realtors, which selling leads is probably a business I'll never get into again. The company still did pretty well. But I just remember working with a lot of realtors, and, they oftentimes would get some leads and say, hey, look, I'm having a hard time getting in touch with these leads. And I'd say, well, walk me through that. And oftentimes they'd say things like, I got the lead yesterday. I left a message. I haven't heard back. And it's like, these are internet leads. It takes 5, sometimes 10 touch points to really get in front of them. And I think, look, just, real estate transactions are convoluted. No, two are not the same. And so it just started to make sense the more I worked kind of with real estate professionals, maybe why it would be really challenging for them to, carve out the time to make the second, third, fourth, fifth phone call, if you will. And what was surprising, there just wasn't a lot of technology to really help them do that. And I think looking at a real estate transaction, the lender is really the quarterback. If you can't get the loan approved, I mean, you're kind of out of luck, right? And so I just saw an opportunity to bring technology into this space. I think there's a lot of great technology that helps the underwriting process and the processing of loans. There's not a lot of great technology that really helps the LO convert more leads, engage their past customers or community, as you so eloquently put it, and just saw an opportunity to build a product that could help with that.
Yeah. So let's talk about this word nurturing, database or, automation, because there are a lot of, I've always been in the opinion, this is nothing new. Everyone's heard this on this call, on this podcast, but it is, sending something to someone on an automated, every month we send the same thing, or, we send a digital flyer that looks like everybody else's flyer. Every week we post something on Facebook, LinkedIn, social media, and it looks like everybody else's thing. It looks canned. It doesn't look customized. That's not engagement. It's just not. I mean, if you post, I look at it the same way. If you post something to the world and you get all these likes and whatever, that's akin to, I sent something to them in their email box, their email, or I sent snail mail and they opened it, they saw it, they liked it, they commented, whatever, but it doesn't mean that they're going to interact with me and engage with me. And we're horrible about engaging with them and calling and saying, hey, did you get that piece I sent in the mail? Did you have any questions? Do you know anybody, right, who might have questions? By the way, before we hang up, is there anyone else that you know? That's engagement. And same with your posting, right? It's not the game of, oh, I got 100 likes or whatever. It's reaching out to those likes and saying, what'd you like so much about it? So that I can duplicate it, right? And so this is where the AI comes in, the artificial intelligence comes in and starts going, oh, I see this pattern, I see these things. So I love that you're talking about true engagement. But how do you do it through a CRM? How are you going to do it through your CRM to create that engagement?
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple ways. One is we've spent most of our development dollars on what we call like our automation engine. So you can basically build a workflow or around any data field, which is unique, and you can do it dragging and dropping. You don't need to hire a developer, and but of course we've learned that loan officers are busy, and you know it can be hard to get in there and do all that for yourself. So we've created what we call playbooks. And we've got over 100 playbooks, which are basically our best practices. Like, hey, if you use this, you're going to get some good results. But really, the way that we look at it is let's maybe take two examples here. Take the example of happy home anniversary. You've been in your home for a year. Congratulations, right? That just feels canned versus the example of, hey, I know it's been maybe it's been like a month after, but hey, I know you've been in your new home for a month. How's it going? Can I like, is there anything that you need? Do you want me to introduce you to like a handyman or someone like that? Like, is there anything
fences,
I can?
Yeah,
Exactly. Can I help in any way? Right. You're providing value there. Here's another one that's really interesting. That maybe a good kind of comparison of how we look at this. We just had Veterans Day recently. So like, what about sending an email like Happy Veterans Day? Okay, well, great. Again, that seems fairly canned. And I mean, they might not be a veteran. So why are you wishing them a Happy Veterans Day? Versus, let's say maybe they do a loan with you and you saw that they had a car payment and they were going to be done with their paying off their car in 15 months. What about reaching out in 15 months saying, hey, if I recall, you had a car payment, you might be done paying it off by this point. Would you like me to run scenarios for you? Like, if you put that towards your mortgage, here's how much you could save over the next 28 years. Right. And like, it's that level of customization and personalization. And it's not our job is not to have those conversations with your customers. It's for us to help tee them up for you. Right. And that's in order to do that, you're exactly right. There's so much noise. You have to do something a little bit more personalized. You have to use data and sort of an element of intelligence there to really kind of find those opportunities.
Yeah. And, and I think, to your point, we were talking in the green room, a little bit about life events. And this is, it's amazing how these certain topics just come up. I think this is my fourth podcast today that I've been on. I've been on like 3 or 4 yesterday, and not just interviewing, but being interviewed. And I've been talking about life events with my students too, and saying, and by the way, it has nothing to do with this market. I've always talked about life events. But someone I was just talking to came up with these 9 Ds, the 9 Ds of life events, which is diploma and getting a dog and then getting a diamond and then getting diapers, earning money, like the dollars, getting a divorce, having to babysit dad, downsizing and death. And all of these things are life events that people encounter, and they happen whether the market's hot or not, whether homes are selling or not. And I think that a lot of people fail to think about life events as being a trigger and a catalyst for opportunities. For me, it's not about leads. You can try to chase leads all day long, but if you chase opportunities, you're going to find leads inside the opportunities and so much more. So I love that. What you're suggesting then is that the algorithm behind this, the AI, the artificial intelligence, recognizes some of those situations somehow, recognizes those situations, and is able to, trigger them for you and say, hey, by the way, you might want to reach out, etc. And I know this is why you called your company Aidium. So tell us a little bit more about that and what the intent was behind that for the loan officer in their daily routine.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, so ADM is AI, and then DM, which is kind of Latin for daily, if you will. Um, and really the idea there is, can we use intelligence to help tee up opportunities for you every single day? I mean, you might not log into your CRM every day, and you shouldn't have to, right?
Yeah,
Maybe it's
right.
once a week thing for you. That's great. But like,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that your technology, your CRM shouldn't be working every day for you, right? And so that's really how we view ourselves, is we're trying to go to battle for you every day and tee up opportunities and make sure everybody's informed about transactions that are ongoing, all of that fun stuff. That's sort of
Yeah.
the root of the name
How
there.
long have you been in business, and what does your
Mhm.
clientele look like as far as your clientele? Are you still in growth mode? Are you just starting out? Are there hiccups in your platform? And then the last question about that is, what other platform looks most similar to yours? Now you're going to tell me there's no platform like mine,
Yeah,
because you have the AI built in. But
sure.
what's most similar? Obviously you were looking at competition and saying, this is
Mhm.
what works here. This is gross there. I like that. And so you probably dumped that all in and said, okay, let's re-engineer this. Let's take the good from everybody, get rid of the bad, and then incorporate our own in here. So, for someone who's listening, saying, is this like Salesforce? Is the which by the way, I used when I was a loan officer.
Yep.
Which a lot of, the learning curve is really high for Salesforce. But when you were saying about drag and dropping your fields and not having to get a
Mm.
developer, that's killer. That's unbelievable, because I had to have a developer put the fields in that I wanted, in my CRM, and create my own CRM. So I know this is a long question, right?
Yeah.
Again, but I'm just kind of looking at who'd you look at to kind of perform from, and then where are you in your 4 stages of growth? Are you're past formulation? Are you in concentration and momentum? Or are you reaching stability?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we started building the platform in 2019. We brought it
Mhm.
to market early 2020, right as the world was actually shutting down. So
Needed you?
I think, yeah, it was. We didn't shut down, thankfully, and also thankfully the industry. A lot of people were worried early on, but it ended up being a good time for the industry. And so we've been at this for a number of years. I think we're in a pretty rapid growth point
Momentum.
at this point. But we're definitely stable and have thousands and thousands of people on the platform, if you will. So I think we're kind of past hiccups and just really trying to learn and grow with our customers. I think kind of traditionally what it's looked like for us is we've worked with a lot of top producers or kind of top branches throughout the nation. So I think a lot of them were hungry for technology that they can really customize, get their hands on. And they had a lot of good ideas too on how they wanted to nurture their
Yeah.
databases. And they
Mhm.
didn't want to spend $100,000 on Salesforce to do that, or just maybe the other platforms in the industry. There's just really no customization available, at that point. And so I think for us, we like to say we're built for the LO, embraced by the enterprise. Over time, as LOs begin to use us, then maybe if you was a top producing team at IMB, then that would turn into the entire IMB, right? And so, so I think we kind of so yeah, we definitely work with people all different shapes and sizes, and I guess in terms of the differentiator, which I think is the second part of your question, I think when I really look at the market, it's like, well, why is the Salesforce not dominating the mortgage market, right? It dominates so many different industries, and it's so big, and you realize, like, okay, to build Salesforce for mortgage, like as you experience, I mean, it's so expensive. You don't get adoption because it's just clunky. It's not built for the mortgage industry. You have to pay so much money to integrate all of your data. We've talked to banks that have spent $10 million trying to build out a Salesforce. It just didn't work. And the ones that got it to work, it was like no one used it because they didn't like it and it was clunky. And so I think for us, like, kind of how we see it is, we're basically it's our own proprietary tech. It's not Salesforce, but we like to think of ourselves as we're trying to build a kind of a Salesforce-esque solution specific to the mortgage industry, easy to use, easy to customize, have all your integrations, bring all your data into one spot, so you don't have to pay people to do all of that. So we like to think of ourselves as that kind of Salesforce that, so we have the reporting, have the workflows, have the CRM, have for all the marketing baked in to one spot. And
I think the data is, the data is most important. Okay, so I think it's so funny. I'm sitting here grinning because when I took on Salesforce, I started creating my own, I was personalizing it for myself. At the time, they didn't have the lender side of it, which I can't remember the name of it anymore, but they had the lender side of it. They came to me, they approached me and said, we would like to buy what you've built out, and we're going to make that our lender platform. And so the lender platform that we all know today actually originated from my personal platform. The funny thing was, we had a conversation with my attorney on the phone, and they offered me $500 for my platform, for my stuff that I had built for lenders in there for myself, right? And it was so funny. I'll never forget it, because my attorney's he's on another phone in a different, location. And I said, and I said, well, what are you thinking as an offer there? They go, oh, maybe 500. He goes, I mean, he just laughed so loud. It was funny. And we ended up settling for much, much more. But that platform, the lender platform, was actually my platform, my specific platform. But then they've zamped it up and made it all pretty and did some other stuff. And then they did some bad things too, like their templates are just yucky. But one of the things that I do like about I had the ability, and I don't know if they still have it in there, is something that I call the Great Retrace. And it's something I use with my coaching students. But, I want to go back 17 people for referrals. I want to know who gave them, who referred them, who referred them, who referred them, who referred them. I want to be able to track how many referrals, every single person has given, and then do that great retrace to find out, where did this all stem from? And so hopefully your platform is something that you can do there, because I would say that that's a big, big thing. Okay, so here we are in today's market. One of the challenges I'm hearing, because I'm interviewing loan officers, I coach loan officers, obviously, I'm speaking on stages, I'm talking to people. One of the challenges is, I don't feel, without saying it this way, and so everybody pardon me as I say this, but I don't feel like working because I'm not getting the results. If I go and have a one-to-one with a realtor, it's not going to result in business. If I meet a client, I've got plenty of pre-approvals, but no houses. Rates are too high. It's funny, several clients recently of my husband's said, well, we decided not to offer because rates are too high. Well, then why were you looking? I mean, I don't get it. But anyway, that's funny. But everyone's saying, if I'm doing all this work, I want to see results. So therefore, I don't think I want to do the work. And everyone's hibernating instead of hyper-focusing. And especially as we start heading into winter. And I talked about this exactly a year ago. Same verbiage, right? The fact that you talk about life events is really, the impact is stirring the database, right? Stirring your community, being the straw that stirs the market for your community, because they are having life events regardless of what's happening in the market. Would you agree? And then can you expand on how that has helped others in the past. And maybe there's some stats on what you've seen for, it's not so much conversion. I know you talked about conversion, but it's more about, there used to be a stat that, 67% of your database was where your next year's business would be, whether it's them refinancing or them referring. So maybe you have some stats on how you've been able to stir the database to be able to squeeze more out of it. And especially at a time when, everyone's sort of giving up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Great question. And I think a lot of that comes down to, you kind of mentioned the reporting and data aspect of, going back 17, referrals ago and whatnot. And there's ways you can do that in our platform. But I think that's been our newest initiative, is sort of investing in the reporting and data side, because it's so critical, because we all have our instincts about, oh, this is working, this is paying off for me, and we all have those software platforms where it's like, I have this platform, I pay X amount of dollars for a month, and it sent out these really cool emails or did this really cool thing, and I got a response and I think it's working. It's like, well, how do you know it's working? I mean, what does the ROI actually look like? Like, do you really know? Like, just because someone opened an email doesn't mean that you've ever done a transaction because of it. And so I think for us, like, the way that we do look at it, I know, and just I'll gloss this really quickly, but we all have sort of our sales funnel. And for every 100 leads a loan officer gets, you get 20 applications that convert. You close 10 loans, and you do about 1.6, or call it 2, in repeat business. That's the sort of average, if you will. If you're crushing that, then good for you. But I think the way that sort of we look at that is, okay, well, how can we help increase the pull throughout those stages? So how can we help you convert more leads into an application, make sure they don't fall off, go to another lender after you work so hard to pre-qualify them, and make sure once you've done a deal with them that you do the next deal with them. And so, and I think, like, there's been a lot of
deals, and their friends,
exactly,
deals, not just their deals, but everybody they're going to refer to you.
And I don't know if you saw this, but I think last week or 2 weeks ago, there was a study that came out that showed that more deals are being done based on referrals from past clients than realtors. Right. And so think about, how much time are you spending with your realtors? How much time are you spending with your past clients?
Alumni.
Yeah, exactly.
Alumni clients.
Alumni community. So
yeah.
I think you're exactly right. What the two opportunities we see, the greatest chance to do more deal is and to help more people, is to make sure people who raise their hand, like, feel like they're taken care of and can get that application converted, get pre-qualified. And the other is just to make sure that that you stay in front of them. And so I think kind of some of the things that we mentioned earlier, but again, it's really I think the philosophy has to be, how can I provide value to my past customers, right? And just think about yourself. Like, if you receive a promotional email, like, when are you going to engage with that? Maybe if it's feels super hyper personalized, or if it's triggered off of something very specific, right? Like, we all get the Black Friday emails, but how many are we opening? How am I engaging with? And so it's starting with, how can I provide value to my alumni? And again, it's using very specific data points to kind of hit them at the right time as well.
Yeah. And I think it's service too. I think we have to remember, it's not a sales call, it's a service call. And that is value. Providing service and finding out what their needs are is something of value. It's interesting. Last year, I had everybody in my coaching program call everyone in their database, right, in their community, and say, hey, I'm just preparing, I'm thinking about you. Is there anything that's coming up this year that I should be aware of? Any life event that's coming up this year? And you don't have to share with me certain things if you don't want, that you want me to be aware of, so that I can put it in my calendar and know when to call you, so that I'm there for you.
Yep.
What you're saying, and so it was fantastic, because what we're doing is not forward thinking. What do you call it? Dreaming. We're not dreaming. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, we're forecasting.
Being mindful. Right? Forecasting.
We're forecasting our annuity income. right? Saying, hey, I talked to 20 people and 10 of them have these events. Yeah, my daughter's going to graduate. What are life events? Oh, I'm pregnant. Oh my gosh, this is so cool, right? And so we're forecasting and forward thinking all of this annuity income that we're going to have that year. And if we put it on our calendar, then that's a time that we're going to call instead of making the phone call and going, oh, I wish you would have talked to you last week. I still think you're awesome, but I wish I would have talked to you last week. And so what your platform is and your CRM is doing that for the loan officer, maybe not in January for the whole year, but predicting and forward thinking, forecasting when those things would happen so that it takes it off their plate. And it forces engagement at the moment that it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's where people sometimes get afraid of automation, and I get that. I like to think of ourselves as more, we're sort of on the defensive side of things. You can play offense. So, if we're the ones helping people complete their applications or letting them know what's going on in a transaction, or thanking a referral partner, or kind of reaching out to someone based off a certain trigger or life event, right? Like we're sort of that last line of defense,
life milestones. I mean,
yeah,
it's not
exactly.
like loan milestones, it's life milestones. And that's really what you're doing is, making sure that they come in. Because see, I think that I think this is across the board. I coach beyond loan officers, I coach business owners too. And we say we're not transactional, and yet there is a linear process to what we do. We do the networking, we do the marketing, we get the lead, we, work the lead, and then we do business and we fulfill it. And then we go, thanks, that was great. Got my money, next, right? And if we look at this as an infinity sign, and it's what, again, I coach a lot on this, because the infinity sign is that we want to bring them back in. That's why I call them alumni, because what do alumni do? They tell everybody about their school. They're like, you got to go here. You got to go here. You got to go. And so they refer people, and they bring their own money back in, right? They donate back to it because they come back in as their own client, referring themselves. And so if we think of this as an infinity sign, then as soon as the loan is closed, I'm begging and beseeching, there is no option. You have to create loyalty to bring them back in. And you cannot create loyalty by sending something that makes you look like a commodity, because you fail to follow up and engage.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. I'll stop using the word past client or past customer and use the word. I totally get it. And I love that. And you're exactly right. I think that's what we see, is because we work with a number of the top producers around the nation. And we see that it's two things. It's like, hey, can you do the follow-up work on front, up front? And it's really then, how much business can you generate from your database? And that's really what distinguishes the top producer from someone that's looking to become a top producer. And you're so right. There's just such an opportunity to differentiate, because most people out there are not taking the time to make those calls or investing in technology to really get in touch with people based off of those life events. And to your point earlier, like, it's going to be, it might be a challenging winter, but we all know this is a cyclical industry, and it's going to continue to get better and better until all of a sudden we're, sort of neck deep again. So why not use this time to really start to build those habits and those relationships, so that way, as things get better, you start to get those referrals.
Yeah, words to my ears. I mean, I say it all the time. You got to be ready for when the when happens. And yes, it's really tough now because you're doing all these activities and you're not getting the exact results that you want. But I promise you're building something that's going to be incredible. And instead of leaving money on the table, you're going to have more and more and more opportunities. And the market share increases, right, during times of market contraction. This is when market share increases. Why not get your share? This is when you should be doing, those activities. So as we finish up our time here today, Spencer, imagine you're talking to loan officers on a regular basis, how's my system working? What kind of results are you getting? What are you finding? What are you looking for? If you can, share with us maybe the top 1 to 3 strategies that you're hearing, ahas maybe that you're hearing from others that are utilizing your system, but you're also just hearing sort of the buzz and the noise that's out there. What are you hearing for those that are being that are relatively successful right now?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. Number one of the things that we are hearing is, and this doesn't come as a surprise to anyone, but the U.S. is sort of at an all-time high as it relates to kind of consumer debt and credit, card debt especially, which the rates on that are higher and a lot higher than 7%, if you will, right? And
Yeah.
so we are hearing that people are starting to experience and believe that they'll get some opportunities to serve their clients with kind of cash out refinances, things like that, to get out from under expensive debt and kind of tap some of the equity that they have in their homes. Again, that really comes back to that relationship aspect. Are you in touch with them, understanding kind of how your alumni are doing, and like that's kind of an awkward call if you haven't spoken to them in 4 years. They're not going to call you and say, hey, I'm in credit card debt and I need to do a cash out refi. But if you're engaging with them, it's like, hey, so I think that there's that element, I think, which is a part of a broader theme. I think some of the best producers that we work with really like to almost position themselves as kind of that like financial advisor, not giving advice on like go buy stocks or Bitcoin or stuff, but really more that idea of like, hey, I just like to understand how you're doing, and and kind of come alongside you and see if there's ways that I can help you get out from under debt, or kind of plan for the future, plan accordingly, or help your kid get a things like that. So I really think it's that client for life alumni mentality. And it's that sort of financial advisor, like the people that have strong relationships with their customer base, not just the referral partners, are doing really, really well now. So I think I think we're seeing a lot of that, and I think we also are starting to see more and more of kind of like different methods of communication. I think email's fairly stale. So I think we're, as an industry, maybe 5 years ago, texting was kind of a no-no, and like in our system, you can turn on, off, whatever. But like we are seeing a lot of people start to lean into that to say, okay, well, if a lot of millennials are looking to buy homes, they don't read their emails, they don't want to be communicated that way. Like, are there other ways to not only personalize our messaging to them, but can we just communicate with them in a way that they actually like and engage with? So I think that's been a big shift the last year. A lot of people that were maybe very wary of kind of using SMS and automation have said, you know what, this is the direction we want to go.
And we all know to say stop, right? I mean, we all know stop. We don't have to unsubscribe. We don't have to rerun, email back, stop, remove, get away. You don't even have a way for me to do this, so we all know, we all know how to do that. And now let me just ask you, since you brought up texting, do you have texting capability in mass situations as well as segmenting? Like I just want to text veterans with a flag. I want to just text, purchasers in the last 6 months with this, or just people that have had 740 credit scores or whatever. Do you have the ability to be able to do that kind of dissecting for texting?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it comes down to the trigger. So like, but yeah, you can build campaigns and use and use texting. I think we obviously we try to find a lot of different ways to dissuade you from uploading a list and mass texting. That's not a good thing.
Right.
But of course,
Unless
like past clients
rates drop down to 3, and then you just have to.
Yeah, but that's your past customers or whatever. I think that would be a trigger, right?
Right.
Now all of a sudden this person's a refi candidate. Let's text them. I think that, yeah, absolutely, our systems totally built for that and can support it. And we have trainings as well on teaching others how to use texting responsibly and to not so that way they don't get in trouble or get their bank in trouble and whatnot. But it definitely is something that that we're seeing the top producers start to lean into, and people are just getting better results from it.
It just all of this boils down to relationship. No matter how much automation we have, no matter how much social media we have, it is relationships. And relationships are a two-way street. They aren't just throw a bunch of stuff, post a bunch of stuff, send a bunch of stuff. It is a relationship. And we hone in on this all the time in coaching. And I'm not over it. I just keep pushing and go, you got to have relationships, you have to, and you have to know how to build them. It's not just enough to want them. So what would you like to leave us with here, Spencer, today? How, we'll get to how we can connect with you and that kind of stuff, but, some mantra, some affirmation, some words of wisdom that you'd like to share with everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the more and more originators that I work with, the more and more, I start to see just how important the work that we're doing is. And I say we kind of as a collective industry, buying a home is the biggest investment anyone makes. It's expensive, it's challenging times to get, people approved into that home. And when the market conditions change as quickly as they can, being really that trusted advisor gives you an opportunity to help a lot of people maybe get out
Mhm.
from credit card debt, or
Yeah.
maybe they had a medical. We've seen people have the medical issues, and okay, well, you can do a cash out and pay. So
Yeah.
there's just so much opportunity to do good. I think through the work that um, through the work that we're doing. And so I just, the way that I see it is like, there are ups and downs in this industry. I know we were kind of on top of the world, and now it's it's a
I
pretty
don't
big
think we're at the
down, but
bottom yet either. I
no,
think we have a little
no.
ways to go. Yeah.
Maybe,
I
maybe
think
that's
the
true.
bottom.
It'll come back, and stay the course, and think about, like, who do you want to be, what do you want to be doing, what technology do you want to be using,
Now's
when
the
it
time.
comes around, because it will, and now's the chance to do that. So it's just, we have to kind of accept where we're at and control what we can control. And you can absolutely control how many past clients you're talking to, and what technology you're using, and how you're building your team, and you can control all of those things. And so it's just, as hard as it is, let's that's kind of where we're at. And it's an opportunity we're not going to get when rates come down and people are looking
And
to
then we're back
refinance
in
again.
the chaos again. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
we woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? I think it boils down to this: is you don't want to be a commodity, then stop acting like one.
Yeah.
That's right. If you don't want to be perceived as a commodity, then stop acting like it. Right. Engage
Yeah.
with your clients. And this is just another way for you to have the resources and automation to be able to do it, so that the excuse of I don't have time to write down their birthday and write down this and write down that, and pick up on the fact they said this, this is a way for you to be able to tap in and at least get something more than what you're already getting. And so I hope that this podcast has been this episode has been helpful to you, to take a look at what Spencer has to offer at Aidium. So Spencer, what is the best way for us to reach you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the best way to learn more about what we're doing and see more of the product is to go to thinkaidium.com. So that's thinkaidium.com. We love for you, and we're always, again, all shapes and sizes. We love working with LOs that are in the trenches or new to the business and have feedback for us. We publish our roadmap and suggestions on our site. We love when people give us suggestions and kind of upvote, downvote what stuff we should be building, what's going to be most helpful. So we're very much about our own community and building the best solution. So yeah, love for y'all to take a look, and can always connect with me on LinkedIn as well. That's probably the only social media that I use. But yeah, no, it's been great, Jen. I think very aligned with sort of how you see the industry, and I'll never forget the alumni versus past client. I'm going to erase past client from my
Good.
yeah,
Good.
from my
I
brain.
love it. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you again for being such a great guest. And be sure that, when you reach out to Spencer, you let him know that you heard this on Mortgage Lending Mastery, and he'll take great care of you. So with that, we will catch you on the next episode. And don't forget, go to YouTube and subscribe to my channel so that you can see all of our episodes, listen to all of our episodes, and all kinds of other goodies that we have over there. We have all kinds of resources for you to learn from. So we look forward to catching you on the next episode. Have a great one.
Thanks for listening to Mortgage Lending Mastery. Be sure to subscribe to hear more sales tips, ideas, strategies, and tactics to help you with your personal and professional growth to multiply your results in record time. And if you like what we're doing, don't forget to give us a rating and review so we can continue to bring you the best content possible. Wanting more beyond the podcast? Join our Mortgage Lending Mastery membership community, where you will find extended interviews with our favorite guests, weekly training, tips, and insider secrets, fireside chats with Jen, free content, meet, share, and collaborate with other members, and so much more. Click the link in the show notes to learn more about this exclusive content. Mortgage Lending Mastery is an Industry Syndicate charter podcast. Industry Syndicate is the first podcast network specifically for the mortgage and real estate industries. Get the Industry Syndicate app in the App Store or Google Play today.